Hi Mucker, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're doing very well. Today has been absolutely hectic, so I've actually poured myself a water on ice. Yes, I am feeling very exotic today, so... Oh my god, that is so good. Also, I have my main light off, just because it looks better whenever I have it like this. So yeah, there is a very creepy setting behind me with the cardboard cutouts. But now let's talk about the biggest fucking drama so far that we've seen this year. So, Trisha Paytas has quit Frenemies. We talked about this in a video that I posted earlier today. Since then, there have been many updates that we're going to get to. Before we get to that, I just want to say, and this includes me, some of y'all out there are not the mental health experts you think you are. The amount of comments that I've seen today talking about what has happened with Trisha, being like, yup, this is totally this, yup, this is totally this, yup, this makes sense because she's doing this to combat this, because of her brain, she's thinking this, and it's like, y'all, sometimes it's okay to just let people, go through stuff without having to examine them and diagnose them with dun. All day today, I've been seeing these people online basically saying that, Trisha is acting out this way because, she's in step 3 of this mental health illness, which then leads her to act like this because of that. It's like sometimes maybe just don't. You know what I mean? Like sometimes just allow things to happen on the internet. You can talk about them. Obviously it's a big drama, but I really personally feel uncomfortable, and obviously my videos about this never go this direction, and I never wanted to, going down the route of diagnosing people with different mental health illnesses that maybe they haven't talked about before, or maybe ones that they have talked about, going deeper into maybe they're acting this way because of medication, or like it's like not it. I know some of y'all think it's like the the mental health expert, like doctors that you are or whatever. Sometimes it's point blank period very disrespectful, and I don't stand by that in my comment section. I saw some of that in my previous video, but I just want to say, can we please not do this in this comment section, because it makes me personally feel very uncomfortable, and I'm sure it would make Trisha feel very uncomfortable. I'm sure it would make them feel that way. They've spoken about it in the past, so let's, respect that. So if you don't know, really condensed, Trisha quit Frenemies because of a very explosive disagreement that happened on the recent episode, in which there was a dispute about Trisha's creative input towards Frenemies and the money that they get back from Frenemies. There was a dispute about the 50-50 split. We learned that Trisha gets 50% of the memberships, which is, paying extra per month on YouTube channel, like $5. We found out that Trisha gets 50% of that, which I think is personally ridiculous, because they're giving Trisha, like, more than necessary. They're giving Trisha 50% of the H3H3 members for a one show that they have whenever they have many other shows. I think that is actually above what they should be giving Trisha, but that's just me personally. I think that's above and beyond. So Trisha was then basically making the argument that, they should have more input. It's their show as well, and because of that, they should be allowed to talk about where the money is split, and if they want to hire their own people, and, started talking about whether the crew should be making as much money as they do, and if, they should be making more money. And it was just like watching a rich person complain about not being more rich. And I don't know about you, but that does nothing for me. I hated the new Frenemies. I thought it was absolutely egotistical from both of them, Trisha and Ethan, and I made it very clear in my last video that I hated that Ethan allowed the conversation to take place and didn't shut it down about whether Ethan's employees should be making the amount of money they do, and whether Trisha works harder than them. Trisha literally said that you have so many employees, why couldn't they have fact-checked all this or whatever, why aren't I making more money? It made me very uncomfortable that conversation was allowed to happen in front of said employees. So that's just my take on that. Now, this shit is so good. Oh my god, you hear that? So good. So, since Trisha left Frenemies, Trisha posted a video. And the video is called Stepping Down from Frenemies. Since I posted my video, on that video, Trisha has released a statement which we're going to read now, and Ethan has also done the same. Now, this has been trending all day on Twitter because people love Frenemies. I love Frenemies. I think it's super enjoyable, and I also love H3 After Dark and H3 Off the Rails. And I'm a member of the H3 channel, and I want to make it very clear, I'm a member of the H3 channel for Frenemies as much as I am all the other ones as well. And I think the deal that they're negotiating with Trisha is insane, because Trisha doesn't, pay the employees. Trisha doesn't build the set. Trisha doesn't, it's pay for the equipment. Trisha is, and I saw a lot of people calling me out for this, in my opinion, an employee. Yeah, Frenemies is Trisha and Ethan's show, but Trisha just shows up for 2 hours a week to talk. That's not a crew member, that's an employee. But that's just my take on it. And I've been super nice to Trisha recently. So Trisha responded to their own video and said the following. Hey guys, I see a lot of your comments and you think that I'm making a mistake or being completely unreasonable. I hear you and I'm not here to combat that. I'm leaving to ease the tension everywhere, which was weird because the tension seemed to be very one-sided from Trisha. I don't want to be the toxicity in their machine and can feel that I am, and it's not good for anyone involved. I'm so sorry so many of you are disappointed in me or that you only became a fan of me again through the show, but I just cannot continue. If this makes me look selfish or a brat, so be it. I am grateful for the opportunity, but it's just not good for me mentally anymore. And it could be my own brain attacking me, but for myself, right now, I just need to disengage completely. This is without a doubt the hardest decision I have ever made. Now, before I go on, I just want to say, it was really weird to me that the episode involved talking about Gabby Hanna. And now my only real defense for Trisha in all of this is that I know in the brief conversations that I've had with Trisha Paytas, that they've expressed how much they have not wanted to talk about Gabby Hanna on Frenemies, and I believe them in what they were saying. This was a couple weeks ago, and it's been very clear that Trisha has been censoring any mention of Gabby on the podcast, so I do believe a little part of this has been that Gabby is brought up on the podcast, which Trisha didn't want, and I don't know how the narrative went in the podcast, so let's leave it aside from that. But before and after, it was very clear that Trisha didn't want Gabby brought up or get attention from Frenemies because that's what Gabby ended up in the end wanted. And it's just, maybe that was a trigger. That's all it took for Trisha to act out a little bit, and to be on the defense because that is what's happened and has happened with Trisha in the past. It's also really weird to me that they titled the Frenemies podcast talking about Gabby Hanna. They've never really done an episode where they've just done a title that, like, point blank to the fucking period point. And especially about Gabby Hanna, whenever Trisha has expressed they've never wanted that, it feels shady to me. People were commenting that there was nothing else they could have cut or, made the title other than, like, Trisha storms out, which again would have been a horrible thing, so I get that. So my argument in that, I've also kind of answered it, that I understand why they've done it. It just doesn't still feel right to me that, for so many weeks of Frenemies now, it's been expressed how Trisha doesn't want Gabby brought up because, we've seen that Trisha has been trying to distance themselves from Gabby and that drama, and each time they've addressed it has been like a plea. So I understand that that is a trigger. Now, I'm going to stop there because people are talking about, it's been a trigger for Trisha, and this means that this mental health disorder leads to this. Because of the trigger, that means that if she's on this medication or whatever, I'm leaving it as that. I believe that talking about Gabby Hanna on the podcast was a trigger to Trisha, which probably put them on the defense for the entire episode. I'm not going into mental health further than that. I'm not going into medication further than that. You know why? Because it's not my place, and it's not your place. I'm sorry. So, yeah, I really thought it was shady that they titled the episode that. And also, Gabby Hanna is probably loving the fact that her name is attached to the most talked about Frenemies podcast thus far, because we know that's what Gabby wants. Anyways, let's continue. And it was definitely the most successful thing that I've ever been a part of. So it's with a super heavy heart that I cannot continue. I'm so sorry from the bottom of my heart. Sorry, it says I'm so sorry from the bottom of my heart. I don't know what else to say or how to convey what I'm going through right now without making things worse. Which to me leads us to believe that there's something deeper going on here. I don't really know why Trisha would say I don't know how to, convey what, things are going on right now. Seems a bit more than just, complications with money in the podcast. And also I made it very clear, my biggest thing is this should not have been a conversation that happened in front of the employees. Never mind the YouTube audience. It was extremely unprofessional from Trisha and Ethan that this was allowed to happen and was posted on the internet, in my opinion. Okay. So if I do, it'll make things much worse. And I'm clearly terrible at explaining my emotions and thoughts right now. Again, I'm so sorry to disappoint, but that's all that I can say. So the comments under Trisha's video are quite negative too. Someone said, Trisha, you were only a co-host for one of the, podcasts on this channel. You're not a producer or an owner. It's not really up to you what happens on the H3 channel and with their staff, because Trisha made an issue that they hired someone without, running it past them. Someone said, you should have said that you privately didn't like the Q&A, in private, which was Trisha was hating on the fact that they wanted to, have fan questions, which is ironic because Trisha, again, I said this, attacked Rylan for being ungrateful for his fans whenever Trisha literally did the same thing with their fans in the recent Frenemies. And Trisha's public standing hasn't been the best ever, so you would think that when they have fans, they would appreciate it. I don't know. Someone said, Trisha literally trashed that segment. It's a show. I honestly don't think any of this should have been talked about in public. And someone said, you were so irritated about the 5%, but meanwhile you keep blowing off all of this money, as you call it, your fun money, while these employees have salaries that they depend on. Okay, so someone else said, imagine backing Shane for longer than Ethan, who's given you more actual support and money in a fraction of time. Could not be me. So that is the feedback to Trisha's video. It is not good, even under Trisha's own video. Again, literally on Twitter, Trisha is trending in the United Kingdom. A YouTuber personality, Trisha Paytas, announces in a video that they are leaving Frenemies, their collaboration podcast show with YouTube personality Ethan Klein, who they've had a history of feuds with. And when you click on it, look at that, Adam McIntyre comes up on the trending. So Ethan then responded and did a couple tweets. He said the following, not sure what to do with the 4,000 Frenemies hoodies, because if you know, I'm pretty sure next month or the month after, Frenemies Teddy Fresh was supposed to be dropping. Now, I don't know if this is all publicity and it will continue to be dropping. Trisha will come back and then they'll be like, oh, like a reinvention, now we have the Teddy Fresh. I don't know. I don't think so, but I'm just throwing that out there in case it happens and I can say I told you so. So, I don't know. I think they'll still release, obviously, all of the Teddy Fresh, Frenemies, because it's been made, and Teddy Fresh is a hard-working brand, and if they put in that effort, they're going to do it. But I've said it, and I'll say it again. Trisha will be back on Frenemies. Give it some time. They will be back. Then Ethan opened up a bit more and said, I'm honestly gutted over this whole thing. Trisha's video this morning was a total surprise to me, honestly. I don't really know what more I can say or do. Full stop. I'm very sorry to the fans of Frenemies. I know how much it meant to everyone. I honestly did everything I could, humanly possible, to save it. And then the final one, ultimately this was my fault for ordering pizza while dressed as Uncle Fester, because during the first fight, he was dressed up as Uncle Fester. So, to me, it seems like this wasn't ever a planned thing and is very serious in terms of, the fights in the past have been feuds where if Trisha would make exposed videos on Ethan, he would respond to them online or whatever, and it would be like, that kind of situation. This time, they're indirectly posting about each other, which leads me to believe that this really is rocky. Now, I do want to read out this comment that people have been sending me on Twitter. Someone commented and said, Trisha, how is it a 50-50, when you don't edit, produce, or do anything besides show up? They host, they build the set, they do the merchandise, they edit, it's their equipment, it's their crew. Come on. Come the fuck on. How is that 50-50 for you? You are an employee. You knew what you signed up for. You kept saying you would have loved to pitch in for the set or be given a chance to produce, but the reality is you have a podcast and it failed miserably, about Trisha's own one, which is a bit harsh, but it didn't do well. Whether you want to admit it or not, whether you want to admit it or not, it was the successful H3H3 platform that even got you off the ground in the podcast world. You gave them views, they gave you a platform. That isn't 50-50 because you're still just an employee. You described this like you were going to take over half an already, successful and established podcast with no skin in the game, no investment, and reap the rewards. Who the fuck would allow that? They're not successful for no reason. Come on. Now, my final thoughts are as follows. People have been saying H3H3 are only getting views because of Trisha. Interesting. The Off the Rails and the After Dark normally peak at around 1 million views. Frenemies can peak up to 3 million views. But the thing is, it's still H3H3 Productions podcast. Trisha Paytas had their own podcast. It was not successful. No shade. So, it's their dynamic that works together. The podcast is so successful because it's on H3's podcast, it has the production value, it has the whatever, and it's the dynamic between Trisha and Ethan. So, it is their podcast. It's their podcast. However, it's under another company, that's Ethan's company. So, therefore, Trisha Paytas is an employee, and they get views because of Trisha, but Trisha is getting them views because because they are an employee of their podcast. Are we understanding this? So people were, making the comparisons of, who should be getting the money, who brings in the most amount of views. In the reality, Frenemies brings in a lot of views because of the dynamic of Trisha and Ethan. It does not bring in a lot of views because of Trisha, and it certainly does not bring in a lot of views because of Ethan. It brings in a lot of views because of both of them together. And that's the honest truth. Trisha gets like 200,000 views on their videos. Ethan, on the lowest podcast he would do, would get around 300,000 to 500,000. It's them together that gets the views. So if they were to do it on another channel, it would be the exact same. Or do it on Trisha's channel, be the exact same. But it's under the company of H3H3, it's all of their investment, therefore they should be making the profit, and Trisha should be paid as an employee. Even though, in my opinion, it seems like Trisha is getting paid very well. Like, way more than anyone else. And they've talked about that in Frenemies, how much money Trisha has been getting and all like this. Again, it makes me uncomfortable whenever I just watch rich people complain about being rich and then wanting to be more rich. But I want to know what your opinion is, so we can talk below. Thank you for watching. I hope you're well. Today has been a lot. If you're on the internet, there is a lot happening with a bunch of other people that I'm yet to get to, but this was just the burning topic that really took the cherry on top of the cake that I had to rush to immediately. So, with that being said, thank you so much for watching, Mucker. Again, I hope you're well. Please leave your feedback, your opinion in the comments below. And thank you for 169k subscribers. Sexy number. Bye. Mwah!